Hello, this is Them United. I'm doing this stream again because I failed last time. Um, the music was too loud. I tried to edit it down and I couldn't edit it down. So we're gonna do the quick update again. It's no big deal. I have time, but I guess that was practice. So the first thing update I've been talking about for the past 3 years, stuff about my health. I had COVID. I was like, I'm a COVID hipster. I had COVID before COVID was like popular. I got it in January of 2020. They didn't really tell us uh, that COVID was around until like March of 2020. That's when they started doing the lockdowns and everything. Um, I've heard reports coming out of China that COVID was spreading around October of 2019. I remember there was a story about this ophthalmologist who was saying, "Hey, there's some kind of um, disease that's spreading, respiratory disease," and the Chinese officials, they were like, "What are you trying to do? Trying to like spread panic?" And so they actually arrested him, and the ophthalmologist, who was right on the money, he actually died in prison of COVID-19. So like COVID's been around for a lot longer than they said. But I got COVID in 2020, and it's just been difficult ever since. My one doctor says probably what I have now is long COVID, because I've been having like all these symptoms, and no one's been able to, really pin down what's going on. And so one of the kind of, this is gross, this is TMI, but one of my issues is my GI tract, and so like I'm not able to essentially go, number two, and so from 2020 to really 2023, it's been extremely difficult, to go to the restroom, and I kind of knew early on in like 2021 that I needed a gastroenterologist, but my provider didn't think so, and then I had to go to urgent care because I kept getting really sick after I ate, and originally I thought it was like nightshades, so plants like potatoes, tomatoes, and all that stuff, because I noticed that's when I would get really sick, is when I ate those. But then it ended up that it was pretty much any food I ate. Anytime I went to digest thing, I got really sick. I would break out in hives, um, and things like that. So then after going to urgent care a couple of times, and they gave me antibiotics, and it helped, but it was only temporary. It would like help and I'd be okay for maybe a month or two. And then I get sick every time I ate. So finally, uh, so then the doctor was like, "Okay, you're having issues," and so like I was eating. I had to do a food journal, so I was eating about 900 calories a day, and I was extremely cold. I was like not generating a lot of heat, but then I was also gaining weight while eating less, eating one or two meals a day. So it kind of didn't make sense. So then I went. So then they're like, "Okay, we're gonna give you an ultrasound." So this was 2022. I get the ultrasound. I'm in like a huge amount of pain, and they're like, "We can't see anything." The ultrasoundist was like, "You're." So what happened was in my abdomen where the pain was, there was like this layer of air, and so the ultrasound can't see through air. And so I joked and I was like, "So you're telling me I'm like Big Hero 6? I'm just a balloon?" And we couldn't figure out what was in there. So they couldn't see They're supposed to be looking at my liver. They found part of my gallbladder, and they said I had like gallbladder sludge and everything. And so I kind of assumed for a while that, oh, I'm having gallbladder issues. So I modified my diet to like eat things that were like healthy for liver and gallbladder. But then I kept getting sick, and so I got a CT scan, and the CT scan found that that there was something. They didn't find what was blocking my intestines, but they could see that they were backed up, and that was a whole ordeal because I had to drink this stuff called contrast, and it makes it so it can, it increases the contrast of the image from the CT scan. And the CT scan is like, it's just a donut you go through. It takes like 3 seconds for it to scan you, and so that happened. And they were able to see like, hey, this guy actually is having issues. It's not something that's going to be fixed by eating more prunes. And so I was trying that. I was doing prunes, apricots. They had me doing what's it called? They had me doing all I can think of is magnesium, but that's not it. Miralax. I'm doing Miralax and then increasing fiber with Metamucil. None of that worked. And if I don't recommend, if you're having like the amount of pain and difficulties that I was having, this. But if you're like having normal constipation, like a normal human being, what you can do is, yeah, you can drink, prunes. You can eat prunes and apricots, and that will work normally. But if you need to like supercharge it, what you do is you actually soak the prunes or apricot in they're dried prunes and dried apricot. You soak them in water, in like a cup full of water, for like a half hour or 40 minutes. And then you eat the prunes, and then you drink the water. And so you might say, well, why don't you just eat the apricot, not dried? And I don't know, but I don't know why. But doing it this way, it like supercharges it, so it's even better at helping you have a bowel movement. But that didn't even work. So then I went to, so we had the CT scan, didn't know what it was. And so then they were like, okay, you actually need the gastroenterologist. So I got him in 2023. And we do, I get a colonoscopy, and the guy was like, it's kind of like those memes, like the Jesus memes, where it's like, you are my most, the person is like, why do you make my bed so comfortable? And Jesus is like, because you are my sleepiest child. But no, so I get the colonoscopy, and I was like, so what was it? Was there a blockage or what? So I ended up, he was like, it was the most difficult, longest colonoscopy, and they weren't able to see everything, he said. So they could only see partial, but they could see that there was a lot of blockages. So I was like, oh. So then for a year now, well, this March I will be for a year, I will have been on Linzess. And so I thought Linzess was like great, like this miracle drug. And I thought it was like fixing things, but it turns out it was just kind of masking things. So for whatever reason, it's difficult for my pharmacy to get it. It's not like a rare drug or something. They just don't usually have it in stock. And so what I've noticed is, so I'll run out, and then it will be like 2 weeks for them to get it back in stock. A lot of times because they forget that they're supposed to stock it and everything. So then I've noticed that when I stop taking Linzess and then I start taking it again, it doesn't work as well the second time. So I thought it was fantastic. It worked great when I was first on it. Then there was about a 2-week break, and then it didn't work so well after that. So that happened another 2 times, and I kind of looked up the stuff. So it turns out that the Linzess is kind of like, it's a pain reliever that's like specifically for your intestines, and it helps your intestines kind of like go back to normal by relieving the pain so that they're not just, seized up. They can actually do the contractions that they're supposed to do. And instead of essentially being, locked, completely closed. So I was like, oh, so that's really just a fast. It's really just like a really fancy pain reliever there. So I've been getting really sick, and so I've been traveling also. I was going to California because I'm scanning my family's negatives to give to the rest of the family and everything. So I'm scanning all these albums and everything, which is a whole nother story. And so each time I do it, there's like 2,000. I think I've scanned a total just in this trip. I've scanned 2,000. The last trip I've done 3,000 images, and so that's scanned them, cropped them, retouched them, everything, all that stuff. And it's been so much fun. Like I love doing restoration, and I kind of plan on doing like a side business uh, once I get back home of doing just doing local negative scanning and album scanning and things like that. But so I've been doing that. But then over Christmas, my doctor called, just my general practitioner, and he was like, "Oh, time for your yearly physical." And I was like, "Oh, I gotta get it done." And that's my dog. And so I didn't think, I've been having a lot of abdominal pain. Every time I eat, I'm getting dizzy and nauseous and stuff. So it's like a different sickness where it's not so much painful. It's like, I don't know, I get kind of loopy and it gets difficult to focus. So then I go and I think, oh, they're just going to do a physical. I take blood pressure medicine, and so I'm just like, just need a refill of that. And so I'm like, I just need a refill of that. And they did, kind of just yearly blood work. And so then my lipids came back, and they were atrocious. This isn't part of the lipid, it was part of the metabolic thing, but I had my glucose was at like 99, and my body is like a jokester because it's like, ha ha ha, pre-diabetes is when you have a glucose level of 100, but we're just gonna go up to 99. And I was like, oh. And I say that because I don't eat that much sugar. I don't drink soda. And so I was like, what is that? And then back to the lipids. The lipids were atrocious. I had this liver enzyme. There's two of them. There's like AST and ALT. And ALT, my ALT was like beyond out of range, being really high. And I was like, oh no. And then my AST was fine. And so the ALT is like if your liver's been working really hard for a long time, then it's struggling, and the liver can take a beating. Like it doesn't complain until it's like things are really bad for the liver, and then it starts leaking enzymes into the blood. So that was like that's where I was at. I was like, oh no. So I'm doing research, and they're like, oh, and the next stage is it's like so it's a fatty liver, they say. And then like the next step is cirrhosis, and I'm like, oh, great, cirrhosis. And I was kind of getting like annoyed because it's like I don't drink alcohol, I don't do hard drugs, like I take medications, So that's the other thing is like medications are processed in the liver. So that could have been like why my liver's having problems. I don't know. And now I'm taking a lot of medications. Like I take antidepressant, blood pressure thing, and then the Linzess. So I was like, oh great, now a fatty liver. So I changed my diet. I think it's like sarcophagus greens or something. But anyway, I'm a vegetarian, but so I just increase the amount of salads, like spinach, arugula. I eat a ton of it, ton of olive oil. So all things that are supposed to help your liver. Um, Cabbage, and then eat a lot of broccoli, cauliflower, just whole foods, not processed. And then I was still really sick, so then I cut out carbs because my glucose was high for no reason. And let me tell you, carbs are addicting. I cut them out, and I had the biggest, like, straight up sugar craving ever. It was obnoxious. And so I cut those out. I'm still getting sick back and forth. But and this has only been a month. This has been since Christmas. So just a couple days ago, I was still really sick. I had a lot of pain in my abdomen. Okay, I'm back. So then I'm like still getting sick. Uh, like every time I eat, I like balloon up. Uh, I've gotten to the point where it's like, oh, I can't go number two reliably, and you know, now that my it's saying my glucose is wrong and I'm having liver issues, and I'm like, well, that makes sense because the liver's in the upper right quadrant, and that's where the pain is. And like, if I even press on it, it like gets angry. So now I have, in a couple of days, I am finally going back to my gastroenterologist. My mom's like, I have to be really firm and say, everything that's going wrong, that it's getting a lot worse, and blah, blah, blah. But like, I'm hoping it's an easy fix. And so like, I'm sick for like maybe 5 days of the week. And then I'll get some relief maybe 1 day or two. And it's like, what was that? I have no idea what's going on. And so that's going to be my health update. So I'm kind of thinking like maybe it's like diabetes or something, or it's pancreatitis, where because I've been constipated so long, the pancreas is like blocked and eating itself, or maybe something to do with the gallbladder. Like, I don't really care what it is as long as it gets fixed. But then the other thing, so I've been doing a lot of negative scanning, and then I've also been programming a little bit. There's a problem with digital, where when digital first came out, of course the megapixels were a lot lower. And so like in 2004, 2005, we had the 5D, and that was like the best a Canon 5D, and so like that was industry standard, but it was only like 12 megapixels. I had a 40D, a Canon 40D. That was 10 megapixels, and like they were good image sensors and everything. They were just very low megapixels. And then the ones before that are even lower. And so I've been trying to come up with a way to upscale the images without a lot of artifacts. And so when you're upscaling, you can do like an aliasing upscale, you can do nearest neighbor, you can do bicubic, and like each one is better at some things. Like actually aliasing is better for downscaling, um, but it's kind of essentially like doubles the pixels, so it makes like 4 pixels next to each other, the same color instead of it being 1 pixel. And so there's no like real increase in quality, and depending on how it does it, sometimes it will do alternate like left pixel, right pixel, and duplicate it that way. But so it's not really that good at upscaling. It's good for little bitty things, like maybe you have a smaller photo and you put it in full screen. But the problem is with my photations, the photographic animations, it will take like an image, and then you might start off with 10 megapixels, but then when you zoom in and do that animation, it goes from 10 megapixels to using 4 megapixels of the image as you magnify it more and more. And so you really have to have a higher megapixel thing if you want a high quality animation all the way through. And so if you're using 1080p, that's about 1.6 megapixels screen size, and that's not too bad. Like if you're doing a 10 megapixel photo, you can zoom in a little bit and not have to worry. But then if you're doing 4K, 4K is 8 megapixels. So, the photo is 2 by 3. You have to crop it a little bit to get it into 16 by 9. So you're just losing all these megapixels. And so you don't have that much. You can zoom in and out with a 2 megapixel difference from the screen size to the image size. And so that's why I'm trying to come up with better upscalers. So I found this one AI upscaler. I do all my AI stuff. I do in Python with PyTorch and everything. And so I'm getting into using CUDA and the machine learning that way. But so with PyTorch, I would have to use the CPU, and then I could take a 10 megapixel image and multiply it by 4. And what's cool with the AI is that essentially it redraws it. So like it finds the lines, and then it kind of graphs the line over it and redraws the textures and everything and gradients. So it's not like before where it was just, copying and pasting the pixels. It's kind of like it's drawing over your image, but on a higher megapixel canvas. And like it's really good. Like there will be like a street sign like for. I went to Italy and there was like a street sign like way off in the distance, and like the text was almost readable. Like it was pretty well defined. The problem is that when it gets to like the higher megapixels, it starts to get a little squiggly. Not like noise artifacts, but actual like kind of waves in the what was once straight lines. It's not much, but so taking a 10 megapixel, it jumps it up to like 100 megapixels. So if you go for like a 1-to-1 ratio, like an actual size image, you can see it. But if you take the AI upscaled one and then go to like zoom in maybe 40%, 40 or 50%, you can't see it. So it's actually better to like do the full upscale to like 100 megapixels and then downscale it back to like 30 or so. So you went from like 10 megapixels to high quality 30. But the problem is that So you take 10 megapixels, it takes forever, and it needs like, I'm not joking, it needs over 100 gigs of RAM. So what I did was I bought a server, an end-of-life server, and it cost about 150, and then eBay was having this sale. This person was trying to get rid of their RAM, and it was like, you could get it in packs of 48, it was only like 20 bucks. So like, it was really inexpensive for me to get a server with 128 gigs of RAM. But the problem is it's the CPU, and so CPUs can do like 2 or 3 things at the same time. It can do really complex operations and comparisons, but with machine learning, you have to do thousands of calculations simultaneously, and that's like why machine learning uses graphics cards and CUDA cores and everything. And so you can do it on the CPU, but like I said, it would take about a full day, like 16 hours to process one image. I was like, oh, there has to be a faster way. And so I actually did upgrade some of my GPUs to 3060, the 3060 RTX, because it has 12 gigs of RAM. But like I said before, you needed like 100 gigs of RAM to be able to process a 10 megapixel image. So I was like, well, we can shrink the image. Well, do a piece of the image. So I wrote this Python script that goes through, it cuts the images into pieces, and I have it doing like 10,000 pixels. And that sounds like a lot, but it's not, because a megapixel is 1 million pixels. So only doing 10,000 pixels, it's a very small piece of the image. And so then it upscales a piece of it. And so it doesn't take that much RAM. Only doing a 10,000 pixel thing takes like 4 or 5 gigs of graphics card RAM. So that was nice, and it's a lot faster.
5 minutes remaining.
So I did that, but then when it puts all the tiles back together, there was like some parts where it was mismatched. Not the tiles, but like let's say there was like a pole, like it would be kind of misaligned to like the bottom poles, part of the pole is there, and then in the next tile, the pole's over there. And so you have to remember it's redrawing it, kind of taking effect the whole image, but it doesn't see the whole image. It only sees that one piece of an image. So its estimation is off a little bit. So that doesn't work with tiling. So I was like, oh, there has to be a better way. So instead of using PyTorch and using the AI model I was using, I switched to OpenCV. They have the deep neural network library, which is another form of AI upscaling, but it doesn't take advantage of the graphics card. You have to actually compile it, and that took forever. I got everything set up, compiled, OpenCV to use CUDA, and it's so picky. It's like you have to set up these parameters correctly if you want CUDA to work with your GPU architecture. So not only is it like you have to use NVIDIA, but you have to tell it what architecture your graphics card is. So if you compile it one way, it works with the 3000 series. If you compile it a different way, it works with the 4000 series. If you compile it another way, it works with server graphics cards, like the A100s and the T40 and things like that. So it's like, it's very ornery. So I got that, and it just blasts through. It does the 10,000 pixel tiles. It blasts through 100 of them. It's about like, I think there's like 600 tiles for a 10 megapixel image, and it does like 50 or 100 of them every like 30 seconds. And so that's a lot faster. It takes about maybe 15 minutes to work on a whole image. And so it takes a 10 megapixel image, it blows it up to 100, and then when I'm animating, it's downscaled to whatever. And there's, with the OpenCV, there's noise, but there's none of that misalignment. There's none of that waviness. The pixels do look a little compressed. If you, I mean, if you if you do deal with streaming videos, sometimes there's like artifacts. So there are a little bit more of those artifacts, but again, if you don't zoom in to the 1-to-1 ratio of the 100 megapixel file, then you don't really see it. So I did that. That was took a long time to figure out. And what else? Got sick. Did negative scanning. Wrote programs. And that's pretty much it. I'm trying to grow YouTube and yes, YouTube and other sites. I'm getting into podcasting more. I have several podcasts that are releasing reliably. There's one podcast I do, which is the Percy F. Oh man, I gotta look it up. I don't want to say the wrong thing. Yeah. Okay. So it's the Percy F. Westman visual audiobooks from Quotations. There's that podcast I'm working on, and that one's coming out every Thursday. Like that one is locked and loaded, and everything's scheduled till like April. That one's set. And then I'm doing another one, which is called Reading Junior Classics, and it's each podcast episode is one story from the Junior Classics. I know I've done that before. I've read the entirety of the Junior Classics 1. I've started 2 and gotten pretty far, but I'm re-recording them because I want to have it story by story, so I can have it kind of like, okay, you search for, like, I want all the stories from American Indians, and I'll have those stories. Or I want all the Greek stories, I'll have that. So it's mainly to make it more searchable, and then I do closed captioning. That's a big part of what I do, because they're supposed to be educational, and I also want it to be for like helping to read and everything. And so it being the smaller stories, I can go back and proofread the closed captioning to where it's like 100% correct, and get all the names and everything of the folk tales correct. So that's the other thing I'm working on, and why I'm doing the shorter versions of the Reading Junior Classic podcast. So that's that. And then this is going to come out as the Thumb United podcast. And then I'm working on doing more music videos and stuff. Not like music videos, but like relaxing nature videos on my Quotations YouTube channel. And that's going well. The videos are getting between like 2K and 5K views. I'm currently doing a series where I already aired part of it on Twitch. That's the reruns. But I went to the Pacific Air Show where they did, all these flying kind of acrobats and stuff with airplanes and military planes. So I recorded it, but I recorded it in 120 frames per second. So I released a version with it in slow-mo. So there's 6 parts, and I published part 2 earlier today. And that one, I think, not part 2, but part 1 got I think it was like 3K views, and I'm like so close to being back to being able to be monetized. I used to be monetized, but then they had the Logan Paul thing where he did the suicide forest in Japan, and YouTube went nuts and took away advertising for everyone little. And then they were like, "Oh, you can only get it if you get 1,000 views." So I got close to 1,000 views. My YouTube channel was really small, and then they're like, "Psych, we changed it to you got to have I think it was like 1,000 subscribers," and so that took forever. But now I'm at like 900 and something subscribers, and then they're like, "Ah, but you need I think it's 5,000 watch hours." So that part's been hard, but I'm at like 3,000 watch hours. So I'm hoping by March I can get it up to the 5,000 and be able to do advertising stuff. I know I was complaining about advertising, and that's because a lot of it's unreliable. Like, there are some places I stream and it's like I made like 60 cents off a stream once, and it only had like an average of 3 viewers. But then I had another stream that blew up, and it had like 400 views, and I made nothing from advertisement. So I have no idea what's going on. Makes no sense. And like I said, it's not reliable. But I'm hoping to get it to where the YouTube channel the animation, the photography, the drone footage can start generating some revenue. Even if it is like a little bit. That's the plan. That's kind of the state of affairs. I'm trying to get healthier. Trying to post more reliably. I mean, that was the main problem, is that I do all these edits, I do all this animation, and then I just don't release it because I don't like how it turned out. And then the issue that I have is that I look back and it's like, it was totally fine. The part I didn't like wasn't that big a deal. I should have just released it. And so the other thing is, and then the other thing is like, well, I could have been consistently releasing this the whole time. I would have been a lot further along in kind of media creation than I am now. But the good thing is it's like in the Matrix. They had the architect, and he was like, we have become increasingly efficient at what we do. Of course, he was talking about destroying Zion, which I am not. But yeah, I am excited to be going back home.
Double kill. Triple kill. Overkill.
They'll be feeling that one tomorrow.
I had this kind of like situation where I had to travel. I had to be ready to travel kind of at a moment's notice. So I've been doing a lot of temporary jobs and things like that, but
Triple kill.
when I get back for good to stay home, I'm looking forward to like doing a reliable job, like career type stuff, and then I can do photography on the side
Nearing victory.
S7 sniper inbound.
and everything.
Another one destined.
So that's my goal. It's like, I want a day job. I want to sit in a cubicle. Especially if the cubicle has air conditioning. Or work from home, even doing tech support. I'm fine with that. Like, I used to work retail. When I did that, that was nice. There was like no surprise. You always got paid. I mean, the amount you got paid changed, but it was like, I don't know. Yeah, you had people yelling at you. But it's not like doing media stuff where it's like, oh, you might get paid, you might not. Blah, blah, blah.
Left him in tatters.
5 minutes remaining. Killing spree. Victory.
That's kind of the state of affairs. Alright, thank you everyone for coming out. See you all later. Bye bye.